Hello, everyone, and thank you for attending today's webinar. Appropriate use of funds and reporting your chapter accounts, presented by Sabrina Mackay at AMP. Next, please. Before we begin, we want to cover a few housekeeping items. All participants are muted. The session is being recorded and will be posted online. If you have any questions, please type them in the Q&A tab, and we will address those questions at the end of the presentation. This is the 8 weeks training series, and this is the 7th week. Please consider the other scheduled topics and sign up for those. Without further delay, I would like to introduce Sabrina Mackay, Senior Staff Accountant at AMP. Welcome, Sabrina.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you all for joining us today. We're going to go over a few key takeaways that we're going to go over in today's session. We're going to go over appropriate and inappropriate use of chapter funds, banking access, financial reporting, resources and contacts for the finance team at AMP headquarters, as well as a few reminders. The appropriate and inappropriate use of chapter funds. We're going to talk high level on what is appropriate and what is not appropriate, but also on our toolkit that we have on the chapter community page has more additional details of outlining what's appropriate and inappropriate use of those funds. But today we'll go over the high level. Appropriate use of those funds will be chapter meeting expenses, as well as member events and activities, so miscellaneous expenses for both of those. Recognition of the chapter members and volunteers, scholarships. We do ask that when you are giving scholarships that you obtain the scholarships, the actual information of the person receiving the scholarship for tax purposes for year end. Sponsoring student and student teams, publicity materials for chapter sponsored events, and the administrative expenses. This could include postage, supplies, if you have audit expenses in your year, if you have a website, your web hosting fees, and then other miscellaneous expenses. And then travel expenses, but this is travel only to conduct chapter business, or if you're hosting a speaker or for your chapter meetings or events, their travel expenses. Inappropriate uses of the funds would be your personal travel, personal meals, personal expenses that do not relate to chapter travel, chapter expenses at your meetings, etc. Donations to individuals not included the awards or the recipients of the scholarships that we mentioned above. So those donations would also be religious and political institutions. And then inappropriate use also would be a donation to an organization that doesn't align with our mission or their mission is unrelated to ours. Payments to payments for your membership dues or classes for your chapter officers or members, and then payments to individuals performing chapter work. This chapter work could include bookkeeping, speaking, teaching, etc. We appreciate everyone's volunteer time, and when you sign on as a volunteer, it's volunteer based. So we do appreciate if you aren't paying each other for the bookkeeping or speaking, etc. And if you do ever have questions or concerns, I mentioned that toolkit that's on the chapter community page, as well as if there's something that you feel that you're not sure if it's appropriate or inappropriate, please reach out to us at headquarters. We'll definitely be able to talk through scenarios with you, as well as help understand the differences. We do ask that all expenses, you keep receipts for those, and then when you do your financial reporting each quarter, you turn in those receipts with the financial report. We'll touch base a little bit about that financial report a little later in the session. Banking and payment solutions. For the check signing policy at AMP, all chapters and other entities that are organized under the AMP or the AMP Global EIN number, so this is the US and Canadian chapters only, should always maintain a minimum of 1 with a maximum of 3 chapter or area volunteers. And then you will also have the AMP CFO and controller as signers on the bank accounts. All Payment Square and other payment solutions, we ask that you add our headquarters financial coordinator as a user on those accounts, in addition to your officers. And the reason we ask you to do this, if there's ever a change in officer or something happens, we still are able to help facilitate you getting access to those payment solutions. And then all active payment solution accounts that we mentioned above, please make sure you're updating those to the AMP Global Center. No account should have existing legacy section or chapter names at this point. And then the funds sitting in those payment solutions, we just ask that you're transferring those monies in a timely manner to your bank accounts. Those funds should never exceed $5,000 in those payment solution accounts. And then we do ask at year end, within like the last few days of the year, you transfer all of the funds into your bank and it clears your bank by the 31st of December. So when we get that last financial report, it's an accurate cash basis accounting, so we can report how much money each chapter has. If you're looking to get access to your bank, the best way to obtain that access is to send us an email to amp.chapters@amp.org. What to include in that email, we're looking for the first and last name of all officers that need to be on the chapter's accounts, the chapter that you are attached to, the position you hold in the chapter, and then what bank you need access to. Does your chapter have multiple banking institutions? Is there multiple accounts in one institution? Please list the last 4 of those account numbers if you have them, so we can get this updated in the most timely manner for you. We'll work directly with the bank to get the signature cards updated. And then if your chapter ever needs a new account, we can definitely help facilitate that as well. Please give us about a month turnaround. There's just so many different regulations with each account that some financial institutions make us update all signature cards on that account. So it does take a little while to get everyone's signature cards updated, get that over to the bank, and then on the back end, the bank do the updates that they need to do. We'll make sure that we keep you updated as the process moves along, and then get the information to you as quickly as we can. Financial reporting. This year we did change things a little differently for the financial reporting. All chapters shall provide financial reporting as outlined in that appropriate affiliation agreement. The financial reports will now be turned in quarterly. On the toolkit, we have it's not set in stone, but a timeline on when we would like those financial reports turned in. We will be sending emails to keep everyone updated if the timeline has changed or if we've extended the timeline, but we do ask that everyone report quarterly. We are putting the templates with the instructions on the toolkit on the chapter community page. So within the next few weeks, we'll be moving the templates and the instructions to that community page so it's easier for everyone to access. If you do ever need a new template or have any questions going through the financial report package, please reach out to us at that email and we will definitely be able to get on a call or walk through how to fill out the report. We do ask with those financial reports that all supporting documents are submitted with the report. That will and not only include the bank and investment statements, if you have money markets, CDs, etc., receipts and invoices for all purchases, PayPal and Square reports, Venmo. I know there's a few other payment solutions out there. If you can log on and just download the reports off those and submit those to us as well. And then the W-9s for the US chapters and entities. Those financial reports were created that it's cumulative for the year. So the report you use for Q1, you'll add data for Q2, 3, and 4. So by the end of the year on your your Q4 report, it will be January through December for the full financial year. So then you would use the same template going forward for each year. And then if you ever have any questions on how to fill that out, like I said before, please reach out to us. We will definitely walk through that with you. If you ever need any assistance, that toolkit I've mentioned multiple times already has been a great tool that our team has built. It's toolkit/chapter financial operations. It's on the AMP website under membership on the chapter community page. Email us amp.chapters@amp.org. Cindy Metzler is our finance coordinator. She's also on this call. So when we get to the Q&A session, she'll be able to jump in if I need any help answering any of your questions. And then myself, Sabrina Mackay, and my phone number as well. I do want to mention, we have added an additional session at the end of this series. It's called Best Practices, Financial Controls, and Fraud Prevention. It's Tuesday, September 6th at 2 p.m. Central. Our friends over at Weaver's Forensic Practice are going to be the ones presenting, Travis and Anthony. And I've added the where to register. It's going to be this link. And then there's also the direct registration Zoom link as well to be registered. I'm going to turn this back over to Cindy Tracy for Q&A.
Thank you, Sabrina. We will go ahead and start with some questions. The first one is, what do I do if my bank account is locked?
Thank you, Cindy. So you would notify our finance coordinator and she would reset your password. That's why we like to have her as the admin on those bank accounts so she can be able to add and get everything updated for everyone in the chapters.
Okay, the following question is, do I need to fill out the financial report if I didn't have any activity within the year?
Yes, so the financial reports need to be filled out regardless of financial activity throughout the year. There are other items in that financial report. So updating different information that's not financial based, there are different tabs on there. So, and then then that tells us that you are still active in the chapter. So we do appreciate everyone's time each quarter getting that filled out for us.
Thank you. The following question is, if we still have several books of checks with the NACE section name, do we cycle those? Or do we need to reorder checks now in the AMP name?
So we are phasing out the NACE name. So we do ask if you can, please order new checks under the AMP name. There has been some instances where checks aren't getting cashed properly because they're in an old name and the banks aren't recognizing them. So if you could please just order new checks if it's feasible for you all.
Thank you. The next question is, I don't see cash mentioned as a payment solution. What are processes for handling cash?
So ideally, for fraud prevention, which will be talked highly about in that session on September 6th, we do not like to handle cash. We do know a lot of people are going to show up to your raffles with cash. But if you could, to get ahead of it, try to push the Square option so you're getting the actual credit card solutions instead. It's going to be better for you guys to have less fraud on your chapter level, but we do understand if cash is collected, you want people to be able to pay for an event. Definitely get that put into the bank as soon as possible. I will say, if you have multiple members or officers at that event, please have one person count it, another person sign off on it, just to make sure that we're covering each other.
Thank you, Sabrina. The following question is, Do same regulations work for international chapters?
So at this point, no. I know a lot of the international chapters, we can't always be on your banks because of different countries' regulations. We do ask that you're filling out the financial package the same exact way. There is two different templates. There's a US and Canadian, and then there's an international one. So please make sure you're filling out the international packet the same. And please give us all the data that you have, if it's your statements, everything listed as well, your receipts. But we are going to be working closely with the internationals to figure out a better streamline for the international chapters.
Thank you. The following question is, how do we order new checks?
You can reach out to us here at headquarters. I know we have a company that we order our checks through here for our headquarters checks. So we can use the same company to order your chapters checks as well. So if you just send an email to the amp.chapters@amp.org, we can get you in touch with the same company that we use.
Thank you. The following question is, what can be done to speed up the process to obtain checks? Our chapter has requested on several occasions, not receiving anything for now over a year.
So I have a question for that question. So are you looking to obtain checks to be able to write checks, or are you looking to obtain access to the bank to get checks? So if you, like I said to the earlier question, please send an email to that amp.chapters, and we can look into why you haven't received checks yet. And we will also make sure that your bank account is updated and you have access to be able to order checks for your chapter.
Thank you. The following question is, can a check signer sign a check addressed to themselves?
So per the check signing policy, no one, including authorized signers, may be part of the approval process of disbursements of checks made out to themselves. So this is another reason why we add the CFO and controller at AMP headquarters to all the chapters accounts. Because if you ever come into a situation where you don't have an additional signer and you need to reimburse yourself, we at AMP headquarters can sign that check for you and get you reimbursed in a timely manner, so you're not waiting to get your money.
Thank you. The following question is, we need checks to write checks, and in the same position, not receiving updates on how to get them.
Okay, yeah, please send an email over to that email address that I have provided. And also in that email, can you include the bank that you use and the account? So kind of the same information we mentioned about becoming a check signer. Include that information, and then we will either put you in touch with the person that orders those checks or get those checks ordered on behalf of your chapter.
The following question is, how should we process this request for a check to ourselves?
So if you don't have more than just yourself as a signer on the account, then please reach out to us. I know it's not, if you're not local to the Houston or Pittsburgh area, it may not be the quickest turnaround, but if you cut the check, we could get it sent over to our Houston area. We would get them to sign, the controller or CFO sign the check for you, and then we would overnight it back over to you to get paid. Ideally, this is why we ask that we have at least 1 to 3 volunteers on your banks, so we don't have to try to mail the check and then mail it back out to you. But we will make sure you get reimbursed in a timely manner and you're not signing your own check.
Thank you, Sabrina, and thank you everyone for attending this webinar. For any additional questions, please bring these over to the community of interest, and we will address those there for this session.
Thank you, Cindy. Thank you, everyone.